This 17 News at Noon podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Noon podcast, where we share your news on your schedule. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us today at noon. I'm Maddie Jansen in for Elena Russ. Well, shopper turnout hit a record high over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. According to the National Retail Federation, 196.7 million people shopped in stores and online during the 5-day period from Thanksgiving Day through Cyber Monday. That's a 70% increase, up by nearly 17 million from 2021. Retailers saw a sizable uptick of in-store shoppers, with more than 122.7 million people visiting bricks and mortar stores over the weekend. Black Friday continues to reign as the most favored day for in-store shopping. The number of online shoppers also grew to 130.2 million, a 2% increase over 2021. The NRF said the top gifts purchased were clothing and accessories, followed by toys, gift cards, books and video games, food and candy, and electronics. With the holiday shopping season in full swing, the door's now wide open to scammers. And the Better Business Bureau says thieves are targeting more buyers with ads on social media. The BBB recommends you do your research while shopping for both online and brick and mortar stores. Ask important questions like return and exchange policies, and use a credit card whenever possible to protect yourself. The National Retail Federation says more than 166 million Americans shopped this past weekend alone. And now to one of our signature issues here at KGET, pedestrian safety. Now that it's getting darker earlier, drivers say the streets of Bakersfield are getting more dangerous. To address that, the city is working to bring streetlights to previously neglected neighborhoods. According to Councilmember Eric Arias, broken streetlights, or a lack of lighting in general, is a big issue affecting Ward 1, which has a higher rate of accidents and pedestrian deaths than the rest of the city. Arias says the city needs to fix the lights in areas that include East and Southeast Bakersfield.
A lot of the newer development goes, specifically in other parts of town. I am proud to represent one of the oldest communities in all of Bakersfield, and over the past 30-40 years, we have not seen significant investment. We can do better. Install those streetlights in those communities, in those neighborhoods that need it the most.
City voters approved Measure N in 2018 to provide funding to help improve street lighting. The project's been done in phases. Phase 1 installed 163 new streetlights in 2021, and 138 streetlights were approved for installation in September. In your 17 Court Watch, the man accused of carrying out multiple hate crimes against the New Allen Chapel AME Church in Delano is scheduled to make his first court appearance today. The Delano Police Department says 33-year-old Kyle Lewis Sisson spray-painted derogatory and racist remarks on the church on at least 3 separate occasions. The latest incident allegedly happened on November 18th. Sisson has been booked on felony hate crime and vandalism charges. He's being held on $500,000 bail. A man convicted of killing his girlfriend's 8-month-old son in Tehachapi could have his sentence reduced. 26-year-old Tobin Wayne Phillips was convicted of strangling Barron Smith in 2017. Phillips was sentenced to life in prison without parole, but the 5th District Court of Appeals has ordered Phillips resentenced in Kern County because of a change to state law in 2021. Phillips could get a lesser penalty of 25 years to life. The first jury panel is being called today for the penalty phase retrial of a former deputy convicted of killing a woman and girl in the 1980s. It's expected to take more than a month to select a jury to hear the retrial of David Keith Rogers, who was convicted and sentenced to death in 1992 for the murders of 20-year-old Janine Benatende and 15-year-old Tracy Clark. In 2019, the California Supreme Court overturned Rogers' death sentence after finding a prosecution witness falsely testified that he sexually assaulted her. The trial is expected to start in January.
Hello, this is Tim Callahan with Clinica Sierra Vista, and we're excited to unveil the Community Health Center of the Future, our comprehensive care center. It's located right across the street from Memorial Hospital. We have every service under one roof, from family medicine, OBGYN care, dental services for adults and children, behavioral health, and much more. So find your way to better care at Clinica Sierra Vista this year at our comprehensive care center. Visit our website, clinicasierravista.org, for the latest on this project. We'll see you soon.
And back here at home, new details on an officer-involved shooting that left one man hospitalized in Wasco over the weekend. Officials now saying that man shot by deputies was armed with a gun.
999, one down. 999, one down. 999, one down.
That was the call heard across police scanners just after 1 a.m. on Sunday. According to KCSO, deputies were investigating a report of gunshots when they tried to pull over a vehicle, and the driver took off, prompting a short chase that ended in a crash on Gromer and Magnolia Avenues. Deputies say the driver had a handgun and ran off after the crash. They did not say what prompted at least one deputy to fire at the driver. The man who was shot is expected to survive. The recent violence leaving many in Wasco concerned for their safety.
When I think about it, it is scary, and I do stay in the house most of the time these days.
It's been really bad lately. You know, we have our Ring app at home, and every other day there's always, did you guys hear gunshots, ambulances, stuff like that going around, like almost on the daily.
Both residents we spoke to say they hope the Wasco City Council approves the development of the city's own police department, saying that would be, or could be, the change that Wasco needs. World news now, and police were out in full force in major cities across China today to prevent more protests after unprecedented demonstrations against the country's so-called zero COVID policy. Over the weekend, those protests posing a rare direct challenge to the ruling Communist Party. NBC's Janice Mackey-Freyer reports from Beijing.
China's health officials today promised better COVID rules and gave the first official acknowledgement of protests here, albeit it was a vague one. At the same time, authorities are cracking down. The streets that had swelled with protests now mostly barricaded and under guard. Police are fanning out and clamping down in several cities, and in some cases checking cell phones for images and messaging apps that could connect a person to the demonstrations. A lot of talk today on social media about people having to delete photos and chat histories. Extraordinary scenes through the weekend with people demanding freedom from the COVID controls that have brought cities here to a standstill. Health officials acknowledging there are still challenges, namely a low vaccination rate, but it's the quarantines and the lockdowns that have frustrated people most, and the anger has been building for a while. The world has been watching with a degree of fascination because protests are rare here, but there's also some concern that the unrest and perpetual lockdowns could impact the global economy. The White House weighing in with a statement saying, quote, "We've long said everyone has the right to peacefully protest," adding, "This includes the PRC, the People's Republic of China." Janice Mackey-Freyer, NBC News, Beijing.
NATO allies said today they would ramp up aid for Ukraine during a very tough winter caused by Moscow's targeting of its energy infrastructure, as the alliance's head accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of using the cold as a weapon of war. Foreign ministers from the NATO military alliance are seeking ways to sustain Kyiv's military and help keep civilians safe amid the constant blackouts and heating shortages. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg told reporters that President Putin is trying to use winter as a weapon of war. British Foreign Secretary James Cleverly accused Putin of targeting civilian energy infrastructure to try and freeze the Ukrainians into submission. Russia acknowledges attacking Ukrainian infrastructure but denies deliberately seeking to harm civilians. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warned his fellow citizens of new Russian attacks this week that could be as bad as last week's, the worst yet, which left millions of people with no heat, water, or power. Back here at home, making news around the nation, the person who stabbed 4 students to death at the University of Idaho is still on the loose. The victims were all under age 22 and were killed at their off-campus home in the middle of the night. Classes have resumed following the Thanksgiving holiday, but the U of I campus is noticeably quieter as students remain apprehensive in the wake of the horrific stabbings. Local police forces have increased their presence in the area and have received an influx of 911 calls from the fearful Idaho community following the killings. No murder weapon has been found and no suspects have been identified. Police now say the remains of 4 infants were found in a South Boston apartment. The remains were initially found in a freezer in the apartment on November 17th. But Monday, Boston police confirmed that a postmortem examination was performed on the 4 babies, 2 boys and 2 girls. The results of those autopsies are still pending. No arrests have been announced, and police have not said who called 911 initially. Homicide detectives say they're sharing very few details as the investigation is ongoing. Making news around the state, the largest academic strike in American history is now in its third week as students prepare for finals. The strike of 48,000 workers who are fighting for more money, childcare, and protection against harassment impacts some 300,000 students at 10 University of California campuses. Caught in the middle are those students who need the researchers and teaching assistants to grade their work, run many classes, and answer their questions about coursework. All right, Court Watch now. Harvey Weinstein will not testify as part of his own defense, meaning his sexual assault trial in Los Angeles could go to a jury by the end of the week. Weinstein's attorneys instead plan to call only 6 witnesses, 4 of whom already testified in court yesterday. His legal team used the same strategy during the 2020 trial in New York, which ended in a 23-year prison sentence. The disgraced Hollywood producer faces 7 counts of rape and sexual battery. Closing arguments are expected to happen tomorrow afternoon. The jury could begin deliberating by Thursday. Meantime, jury deliberations resumed today in the rape trial of That 70s Show actor Danny Masterson. 2 of the jurors were dismissed yesterday after getting coronavirus. They were replaced with alternates, and the judge told the jury to restart deliberations. The jurors had returned from the Thanksgiving break and told the judge they were deadlocked and couldn't reach a verdict after more than 2 days of deliberations. Masterson is charged with raping 3 women in his Hollywood Hills home between 2001 and 2003. His lawyers claim the acts were consensual. The Queen Mary in Long Beach is on track to reopen in the next few months because repairs are moving along quickly. Some have already been completed, others will be done early next year. 75% of the critical repairs, including electrical, plumbing, and metalwork, are expected to be complete by the end of the year. Interior and exterior painting, flooring, and railing will be completed in the next few months. Other repairs include an emergency generator and interior-exterior lighting. The ship closed to the public in 2020 because of the pandemic.
The 17 News at Noon podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.